Welcome back, everybody. This is Apocalypse Doc here, Doctor in the Apocalypse, and I have for you another Unreal Engine 5 tutorial. Today, we're going to be continuing the stats system. We will be creating a health system and a take damage function. So let's get started. We want to open up our stats component. And we're going to need new functions to manipulate our health. Let's look at our decrease food function. And we're actually going to duplicate this and make a decrease health. All right? But before we can do that, we actually need to make our health variables. So let's do that. Make starting health, and that's going to be a float. Go ahead and duplicate that, and we'll make our current health. Then we're going to want to duplicate that and make our max health. And we're going to make our current health, just like the current food, it's going to be rep notify. Okay. We're going to want to put that in the do not edit folder. And then we're going to create new folders for the starting health. It's going to be stats, customizable health. So similar to this, but we're going to change food to health. All right. And then let's go ahead and move our max health to our do not edit folder. Compile and save. And our starting food is 100. We're also going to make our starting health 100. Okay. So let's duplicate this decrease food function and call it decrease health. Let's give it its own folder called health. All right, so instead of current food, we want current health. So I'm going to drag current health on top of here and release it. Instead of max food, we want max health. So let's do the same thing. Drag this out. There we go. Instead of current food here and current food here, you guessed it, we want current health. And instead of the variable setting is starving when current health is 0, we're actually going to want to set is dead. So we're going to create a new Boolean. Let's duplicate this and say is dead. Okay. All right. Let's make sure everything's okay. So this function decrease health, we're going to take our current health, we're going to subtract whatever amount, and this will be set when you call this function. We're going to clamp this value that results between 0 and the maximum health. And if this result, actually I'm going to change this. Here we go, nearly equal, that's what we want. Okay, let's move all this over. Okay, so when you subtract whatever amount you're subtracting from the current health, clamp it between 0 and max health. If this value is nearly equal to 0, and you can set your error tolerance whatever you want. If it is, we want to set the current health to 0. So let's go ahead and remove this. And set that the player is dead. 0 health, the player should be dead. Okay? And if it's not nearly equal to 0, we want to set the current health to this amount. Okay? There we go. Compile and save. So that's our decrease health function. So what about our take damage function? We're going to take advantage of the fact that the Unreal Engine has its own damage functions. All right, so let's go to our third person character And remember, you can do the same thing with the first person character. And you're going to right click in the graph and you're going to type event any damage. Okay? So leave this here. We're going to want to create our own take damage function. So let's go back to our stats component. So let's go ahead and create a new function and call it take damage. And let's move this into a category called combat. And let's think about what variables we need when we want to take damage. We're obviously going to want to know how much damage is the player taking, or the AI. So let's do damage. And we're probably going to want to know who caused the damage, because we may want eventually to create some logic where if the AI takes damage, that it goes after the actor that created the damage, that caused the damage. So let's call this damage causer. And you may also want type of damage. I'm not going to be using that, but you're welcome to. So here's our take damage function. Let's go back to our third person character and let's call this take damage function whenever the player takes any damage. So let's grab our stats component, right click, convert it to a validated get. All right. And let's call take damage. And there it is. And go ahead and plug in damage to damage, okay? And damage causer to damage causer. Compile and save. And that's all you need to do right here. So let's go back to our stats component. We're going to want to decrease health when whoever owns this component takes damage. So let's drag our new decrease health function into the graph. Let's connect the execution pins. And for the amount of damage, we're just going to drag damage here, okay? We need a function so we can give damage to the player and see that this is going to work. The only way we're going to see this work is if we create a health bar. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's duplicate our food bar. Right click, duplicate, and call this health bar UI. Save that. Let's open this up. All right. So let's find an icon that we can use to represent health. If you ever import icons into your project and they look like this, just highlight all of them with Control A, go to Asset Actions, go to Bulk Edit via Property Matrix. And then for, let's see, for compression, you're going to want to do UI and just wait. Okay. And for a level of detail, you're going to go to Texture Group. Instead of World, you're going to do UI and just wait. Go ahead and save that. And close this, and your icons should be fine. See? All right, so let's see. Ooh, I do like Band-Aid. Okay, I'm going to use a Band-Aid to represent health. Let's go to Health Bar. Oh, that's just a bit too big. So let me undo that. Let's see, that was 24 by 24. Why don't we surround this with a size box? That's 24 by 24, so we don't have that problem anymore when we need to change the icon. All right, perfect. Compile and save. All right, and instead of this saying text food, we want it to say text health. Anything else here? Border food bar. Instead of food bar, let's make it say health bar. Oops, heath bar. Those are gross. Compile and save. Okay, and then let's think about what color we want. Instead of this weird browny orange, for health, I usually like red. All right, so let's kind of not too bright. There we go. Compile and save. So there's our health bar. Let's see what that looks like. It's a little too bright. Maybe change the alpha to 0.8. Compile and save. Okay, there's a health bar. I actually feel like this icon is too small. I think we need to put a little padding on top to make sure it's in the center. There we go. And I'm actually going to make this, let's see, how about 26 by 26? 28 by 28, that's good. Compile and save. All right, I think that's good. So there's our health bar, we've got our food bar. Let's wrap all of these together, all right? So I'm going to create a new widget, and it's going to be called Player Bars. Player Bars UI, okay? And I'm going to get a vertical box, drag that here. There we go. And then I'm going to add the bars that we created, okay? So type bar, go to user created. Let's get our health bar in there, and let's get our food bar in there. There we go. Perfect. And then let's wrap the vertical box with a size box. And for width override, let's do 300. And for fill screen, change that to desired on screen. Now I'm not going to do a height override because we're going to add multiple bars in here, and I don't want to restrict the height at this time. So that looks pretty good. All right. All right. So the health bar and the food bar are variables. Don't change that. You just want to make sure that's still ticked. I'm just going to change the names so they're simple. And now we're going to go back to where we added the food bar to the HUD, okay? And we're going to instead add the player bars, all right? So let's go to our stats component and let's find that function. Let's go to UI, add food bar to main HUD. We're going to change that to add player bars to main HUD. Okay, compile and save. All right. So I'm gonna delete that reference right there, that food bar reference. So instead of food bar, let's grab the player bars. And just like in our food bar, remember we had to initialize the values. We need to do the same for our health bar. So let's rename this function. Init health bar values. Okay. In this function that says refresh food bar, we're going to change that to refresh health bar. Okay. Compile and save. And bind event to update food bar, we don't want that. So we need to change this. Health bar. And remember, these are all the functions that help us update it on the HUD, okay? So instead of getting current food, we want to get current health. So we need to go back to our stats component and duplicate this get current food function. And we're going to call it get current health. Okay. And then we want this to be under the heading of health. Okay. So let's drag our current health variable and replace food. Compile and save. All right. So now let's go back to the health bar UI. We're going to delete that. We're going to get current health, the function. Okay. There we go. Compile and save. And I see we made a little mistake here. We want to make sure that the current health is private. We do not want to be messing with that. All right. Compile and save. That's why we created the function. Now let's get the max health. Get max health. Plug that in there. Go ahead and replace this. Okay. Instead of max food, let's go ahead and get our max health. Okay. Replace that, delete that. All right. So the set percent right here is going to be changing the slider. And the set text that we have right here is going to be changing this number. So now let's go back to our stats component and go back to our adding player bars UI to the main HUD. So let's promote this to a variable. We're going to call this, let's see, player bars UI reference. And let's make that private. And we don't want to edit that, so we're going to move that to our do not edit. Okay. All right. Compile and save. All right. And then remember, we're grabbing the character reference, the character that owns this component. We're grabbing the get main HUD. Remember, we created that in a previous video. We're dragging out the main HUD canvas. Then we're going to add a child to it, and it's going to be the player bars. All right. And now we're going to need to initialize the food bar and the health bar. Okay. So how do we do that? Well, let's grab this variable, convert it to a validated get. And we're going to need to get the food bar from there. All right. And now we can plug this in to initialize the food bar values. Okay. And we're going to do the same for the health. There we go. And this is asking for a stats component, so we can just get a reference to self, compile, and save. All right. And that should be it. I don't think we're actually using the stats component in here, so I'm actually going to delete that. All right, just so things aren't confusing. And I'm going to do the same thing for the food bar. There we go. Okay, so that should add the player bars widget to the main HUD. We also need to make sure that when the player loses health, just like when they lose food, it's updated. Okay, so we no longer have this reference to use. Okay, so we need to get our player bars instead. It's just like what we did when we were initializing the values. Get food bar. There we go. So when you make a variable rep notify, it generates this function on rep. So in other words, whenever the current food variable is changed, it's going to update it on the HUD. And that's the same thing we're going to do for current health. So I'm going to copy this variable, go to current health, paste. All right, and we're going to grab the health bar, and we're going to want to update. Let's see. Call update health bar. And then it's asking for a stats component reference, so we're going to get a reference to self. Compile and save, and that should be good. And we can delete this food bar UI ref. We're not using it anymore. Okay, that looks good. So let's go to where we're initializing our stats. Remember here, we grab our starting food, which is 100. We set the current food, and we set that equal to the max food. We need to do the same thing for our health. So let's do that. Let's grab a setter for current health. So hold Alt, drag it into the graph. Let's grab a setter for max health. Hold Alt, drag that into the graph. All right, let's connect those. And we need to drag the starting health into here. And let's make sure our starting health is 100. All right, let's connect these execution pins, compile and save. Now let's see. Perfect. And you can see our health up on the top left, and you can see our food. Little UI element still works. Nothing has been messed with, just the way we add it to the screen has changed. Let's set up like a debug trigger, as I call it, so we can see if the health will go down over time. So let's right click here, and remember this is Unreal Engine 5.0. The input system is different. So I'm going to use the letter P. Just for some reason this is what I use for my debugs. Okay, and then I want to do damage to the player. Okay, and we're going to take advantage of the fact that the Unreal Engine has damage functions. Okay, so we're going to drag this out and do, let's see, type damage and select apply damage. And let's apply 10 damage. Okay, and the damaged actor is going to be self because we're in the third person character. Okay, damage causer does not matter right now. Event instigator does not matter right now. So compile and save. So every time I push P, we should take 10 damage. Let's see if that works. Push play, pushing P, and there you go. Our health is going down. There we go. So in summary, what we've done, we've added a health bar to the top left of the screen, and we did that by creating another widget and adding both the health and the food bar to that widget together in a vertical box. And we've changed the add food bar to UI function in the stats component, and instead we're adding the player bars UI that contains both of the bars. We've also made a way that we can update the health whenever it's changed. We did this by copying what we did for current food. Okay, we're getting our player bars ref, grabbing the health bar, and we're calling our event dispatcher that updates the health bar. And that's this right here. Whenever we call update health bar, it refreshes our health bar here. All right, refreshes the text and the percent. All right. So thank you for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed that. Remember to hit that like button. It really helps me out in the algorithm. If you'd like to see more content like this, go ahead and subscribe. There'll definitely be more coming. Thank you and have a nice day.